collision course.
We are indeed on a collision course. I am John Siino. This is Kate from Montreal. How are you doing today, Kate?
Doing very well, thank you. Yes, very happy that I live in an air-conditioned place right now.
Yeah, the heat has been pretty intense here the last couple days or so. I had to get my AC installed and everything, and my cat doesn't know how to react to it. It's his first time in the AC, and he's like, what is that noise? Why is it so cold? Where's the blanket? So I had to make sure he's nice and cozy under the blanket right now. But yeah, we are here for week number 4 of Collision, as well as Collision Course, of course. And yeah, how do you feel about Collision, the week 4? I mean, it's a lot more hype than usual with the Joe and Punk match, you would think, right?
I think so, yeah. Definitely this week felt way more stacked than last week, which I guess the response to was mixed. It wasn't so mixed on this show. I think we were both kind of down on it. This was absolutely an improvement in every way. And we'll get into it, but yeah, just a much stronger showing, and perhaps a sign that on weeks where they think Collision is likely to suffer a little because there's a WWE pay-per-view the same day, even if it's not conflicting in terms of time, or because they are airing on a tape delay, that they might not be stacking these shows as much as they normally would. I'm trying to remember, because they did have a couple of times when Dynamite got bumped around, but I don't recall them sort of scaling down the card very much. This was very early on, though, so I might be remembering it a little wrongly. Yeah, what do you think?
It should be interesting this week as well, especially for watchers of indie wrestling, because you have a pretty big GCW show that's going head to head. It's an East Coast show that's going head to head with this. You also have MLW having their first live pay-per-view that's also on Fight. So both of those shows are available on Fight Plus. So if somebody has Fight Plus, they can watch either one of those shows right instead of watching Collision. So it should be a curious observation exactly on what people chose to watch today. If they chose to watch Collision on DVR. I've been hearing that Collision's been doing pretty well as far as DVR numbers. So I wonder if that's the route, especially with it being a Saturday night. Obviously,
it has done well on DVR numbers. I think that's expected on a show that airs on a weekend, and we're all kind of moving around blind here, because what we don't really know is what the expectation of the network is, and that's how this lives or dies. The one thing I would say is DVR numbers aside, what you have seen is a precipitous drop in viewership over 3 weeks, and that's not good. I think it's very difficult to spin the number, especially in the demo from last week, as in any way positive. It will be interesting to see. I feel as if this one is going to go up, and probably significantly. What I will be very interested to see is that demo number, because certainly this entire thing was built around Punk and Joe, which is a match that's appealing to a lot of people, but it's appealing to a lot of people who are a bit older. And so this may drive viewership up. How much will it affect the demo? Now, that's not to say that the people who are interested in this match are all senior citizens like I am, but you do get a sense that a lot of the younger viewers are not going to be as familiar with the rivalry that existed between Punk and Joe. So we shall see.
And last week was a taped episode, so we were technically taped, but with this being live, we are technically live as well. So if you have any feedback, make sure to leave it in the post forum. And we will be taking callers at the end as well. So if anybody wants to give any feedback on today's show, on Rampage, if you happen to watch MLW or GCW, go ahead. I'm not sure if you care about spoilers, Kate. I don't really care. I'll probably be watching both of the shows later on tonight, tomorrow. So it doesn't really matter too much to me. But if you want to talk about anything major that happened in any show today, let us know. But we will go into Collision. This is live from the Brandt Center in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada. Can't remember the last time I've seen a wrestling show in Regina. I'm pretty sure WWE has been there before, but it's not really a wrestling town. I guess if you want to start naming the top 10 Canadian cities, I don't think Regina comes to mind.
I can think of one that would land ahead of it that they're not going to. Although they did. It's not announced for sure yet, but apparently we are getting an AEW show in December, because
Right.
if you're
And that's
going to Montreal, why the hell wouldn't you come in the middle of winter?
I saw that, and it was kind of interesting because it said a Collision and ROH would be taping on Tuesday, and then
Yeah.
Dynamite and Rampage would be on Wednesday. So it's a little backwards, but hey, as long as Montreal is getting AEW, I can't really complain too much.
The issue with Montreal is, and this is, I think, I've been very salty about their decision not to come here or not to hit any other Eastern dates during this tour. The issue with Montreal is that there aren't that many venues they could book, and these venues are often booked far in advance. Like, certainly the dates for this tour, they could not possibly have gotten an appropriate venue in Montreal, because things have been booked. We have festivals running all summer. It's kind of our thing. You have the Jazz Festival, the Francophonie. You have so both venues and hotels would be very, very difficult to come by. I think that perhaps the dates that they're taping may also play into that, because just for a city this size, a city of, I think it's about 3 million all told when you look at the Montreal, the sort of metro area. Show venues are few and far between, and there's basically two that they could run. One is quite small, and then apparently they're running the Bell Center, which is a very large one. Some the people will know it. It's where Elimination Chamber happened this year. So that said, not too sure about Regina. And certainly you have everywhere in Western Canada, you're going to get the tie-in with the Harts. Not as much so as you will next week in Alberta, but you're going to get part of that. I don't know. I think WWE has gone there before. I don't think they've gone there often. Now, I didn't check what the final WrestleTix number was, but I did see that, like, WWE, the last time they went there, didn't draw all that much more than AEW did tonight. So it's not a city where you're going to get a huge crowd. I mean, it's not a big city.
I'm looking right now. It looks like they went there back in 2022, but before then, there was like a couple of live shows back in 2011, 2013, and then
Yeah,
some Superstars tapings way back in 1995. So they definitely have
yeah,
gone there. It's not a common place for them to go to. But we are
yeah.
going there today, and the show starts with one of my favorite parts, which is like these old school promos. But this one has a nice little touch to it because right at the very end, Punk is like, you know what? I want to talk about this. I want to talk about it right now. And he heads right to the ring. So if anybody had any doubts about waiting too long to see or hear from CM Punk, we get it right here to start the show, which I think is pretty smart for anybody who might have decided to watch something else tonight. It's like, oh, wait, hold on. Punk is going to talk now. Let me see what he's going to say. So he heads to the ring. He grabs the mic and he says that there's a big match tonight. He doesn't want to take up too much time, but he talks about the history between himself and Samoa Joe and starts talking about how this is the Hart Stampede country. This is the biggest match of his career. And if Joe kills him in a dream, he better wake up and apologize. It feels like the finals of the tournament, but if it was the finals, he'd be looking past Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. He said it's been 18 years since he's been in the ring with Samoa Joe. He has missing teeth. He has scars because of him. Somebody in the crowd says he's still pretty, which Punk agrees with. There's no name that's bigger than either one of them. There's one name that's bigger than either one of them, and that's Owen Hart. And he wants the crowd to start chanting Owen's name, which they do, and it's a constant thing through the night. I think it was really smart that he went ahead and kind of placed this in the crowd. So I'm pretty sure they would have done it regardless, but the fact that he kind of gave him an incentive to, it was a common recurrence with the Owen chants. He said if it wasn't for Owen Hart, a lot of the locker room would be empty, and he might not be here right now, and none of them would be here if it wasn't for Owen Hart. He starts talking about how he's a hockey guy, and he knows he's not supposed to touch the cup, but he's not superstitious. He walks under ladders, and he will because he deserves it, and he will earn it. He won't promise a victory, but he thinks that he will promise that he will pour his heart out until there's nothing left to give and leave everything in that ring for everyone here and everyone sitting at home for Owen. Nice promo to start the show. Definitely got people, they're not interested in this match already. This would definitely give them incentive too. How did you think he started the show?
Nice is the operative word there. I thought that he delivered it very, very well. He has an ease with an audience that almost no one else in the industry does. I have to say, I didn't really like this kind of almost cloying, as you said. It was nice. It was Punk without his edge. He was just,
Yeah.
this is not and look, I'm not saying, of course, you want someone to come out and do the acknowledgement for Owen Hart. You're getting into, as I said, Hart territory by going into the prairies. And smart of them, they know they're going to get the Owen chance. So let's seem right off the bat like we are behind it. We want it to happen. But this promo just didn't seem to fit with Punk's character. And I guess clearly, while they may have been leaving a little bit of ambiguity early on in terms of whether Punk was going to move forward as a babyface or a heel, they seem to have, in the last week or so, reverted to him going full on babyface, where he came in to sort of stand up to Samoa Joe last week when he beat down Roderick Strong. And certainly this promo is just classic, pure white meat babyface. But Punk himself is not the white meat babyface. He's always had a bit more to him. So I thought the promo was very well delivered, but coming from him, I found it a little too sweet. It's not what I want CM Punk to give me.
I agree.
Kudos to him for fitting Larry in there too at the when he was doing the backstage promo at the very beginning, when he left to come out, as he walked away, there was a shirt with Larry's face on it behind him.
Oh, I missed that. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool touch.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you said pretty much. Like I feel like he maybe didn't know what kind of reaction he was going to get. He was fearful that some people will cheer for Joe because Joe's obviously a popular name. So he kind of gave like that rah-rah babyface like promo, like just in case you're not sure, I'm the good guy tonight. Yay Owen, let's chin for Owen. So I could definitely see like him maybe trying a little bit too hard. And you're right though, it didn't really fit his character, like him doing this a little too much to the point where it's like, I don't know if this is going to carry on for next week. I mean, we'll obviously talk about the match that's going to happen next week and who's going to be the babyface in that match. But it definitely felt a little bit over the top. And then this was followed by a video package, and it's actually like this. It showed highlights of their previous matches, and it had like current comments from Punk and Joe, and also had comments from their previous fights where they actually like kind of fit in with what's going on today. Like one of the lines, Joe says something about like tonight's the night for fighting, and I'm like, wait, that's kind of like the theme song. So it definitely like whoever edited this definitely did a great job on putting this package together. We go into the first match of the Owen Hart Foundation men's tournament semifinals as we have Powerhouse Hobbs coming out with the entire QTV. Although Johnny TV, they haven't really mentioned him much. I know there was like a quick little video for him on Rampage, but he hasn't been with QTV since he returned to AEW. So we only have Harley Cameron, QT Marshall, and Aaron Solo here with Hobbs taking on Ricky Starks, and then Hobbs in some sweet Owen style black and pink gear here. And commentary talks about the history together in Team Taz. It even shows some highlights of Starks and Hobbs working together, which is a nice little touch if anybody's not too familiar with their history. But the match itself starts with Hobbs overpowering Starks in the corner, but Starks ends up closing Hobbs to the outside where he regroups with QTV. Hobbs stays in control for the next couple of minutes with Hobbs whipping Starks real hard into the corner as they go into picture-in-picture. When we come back, Hobbs is still in control, climbs the ropes with Starks on his shoulders, but he's able to escape and power bomb Hobbs down, only getting a 2 count. Starks tries to the DDT off the ropes, but this is a little bit I'm not sure if it was a botch. I'm pretty sure it was a botch, but he tried so hard to like make the best out of it, and he hit something of a DDT. It wasn't really what he meant to do, but you can definitely see he was frustrated from this attempt at a DDT. What did you think of this? His recovery after kind of slipping up on the ropes here?
I think that sometimes you get a botch, and I do think that this was a mistake, but it almost works in the match's favor. Like they definitely were messing around for a couple seconds, but it made it look like a real fight. Like that is how, if you watch MMA, if you watch amateur wrestling, that is how people do fight with each other. So I thought that they recovered very well because, and to me, wrestling, it's such a precise thing that you are always going to have these moments where things go wrong, and things obviously go wrong. And I almost like seeing when someone can sort of pull back and make you feel like the mistake, if it wasn't part of the plan, that it at least actually helped the plan. And this idea that, they're kind of going all at it, and that they're getting just too worked up and too eager to get at each other that I thought it actually it I would even go so far as to say that it worked in their favor.
Yep. And right after this, QT trips up Starks on the ropes as Hobbs hits a spinebuster. But as he's going for the pin, for some reason, QT Marshall just gets on the apron, and Aubrey is distracted by this, of course. And I'm so confused by this because for whatever reason, QT just doesn't get off the apron. Like, Aubrey is not going to leave him alone until he gets off the apron. And of course, Hobbs is thinking the same thing, like, why don't you just get off the apron? He starts yelling to QT to get down. As this is happening, Starks, of course, capitalizes from this, hits a spear to get the win at 11 minutes and 9 seconds to advance to the finals. But I know it's like a broken record every week with the referees here, but this was like a little over the top. Like, seriously, he gets on the apron for no reason whatsoever and then doesn't get off the apron. He's just for screaming. I don't know what he was even screaming at, what he was trying to accomplish with this. It wasn't like Aaron Solo or somebody else was trying to, come into the match. It was just like him on the apron. So, yeah, another faulty finish here with the referee distraction, but Starks does advance to the finals.
And I think that in particular, we said this before, they are particularly bad at doing these things with Aubrey, who more and more looks like a fool as these things keep happening. And in fact, when Hobbs beat Dustin Rhodes, it was interference that in a match that Aubrey was reffing that allowed them to get the win. But yeah, this wasn't good distraction either. Like, QT stands there yelling at Aubrey like an idiot when his man has Starks pinned. But then Hobbs didn't come out of it looking great either, because he goes over to yell at QT, during which time Starks is still laid out on the ground. It's like, dude, just keep pinning him. Yell. You can yell from where you are. They will hear you. So yeah, I wasn't blown away by this match. And I have to say that we've seen Hobbs versus Starks a few times, and I always feel like it never quite lives up to what I want it to be, to what I know that both of them can deliver. It's, for some reason, I don't know if it's that they just don't happen to have good in-ring chemistry. When they did them as a tag team and then the breakup there, you felt really good, like this was going to be an exciting match, and it was fine, but it wasn't as thrilling as you felt like it could be. And I thought the same thing about this one. They had a good backstory going into this, and I think a lot of AEW fans would pick up on it. They don't need to be reminded. They don't need to have their hand held. People who've been following AEW know about this story. And yet I just felt like this match never got out of first gear. And the other thing that I found was that too much of it was about setting up the story now with Hobbs and QTV. And as much as I think that if we're going to Hobbs, sort of this feud to get him established now, I guess, as a baby face, and probably leading to a match with the erstwhile absent Johnny TV. I think that is good to build him up a little bit more and gives him something to do, because not everyone is going to be in a title picture. I just felt that the match was so much focused on accomplishing that goal that Starks felt like an afterthought. And that's not good, because he's your winner. He's the guy who you are going to, spoiler alert, put up against CM Punk in the final. He needs to feel like a star, and he did not feel like a star coming out of this match. The other, I guess, and we can talk about the aftermath of the match and what happened there.
Yeah, I mean, before that, like, I totally agree. Like, this is like just setting up the next feud for Hobbs. That's okay if you're having just a standard match on a Rampage or Dynamite or Collision, obviously. But like you said, this is the man that's going into the finals of this prestige Owen Hart tournament. Why, like, tarnish his victory in a way by this have distraction finish, and then he's supposed to go be strong going into this match? It's kind of backwards. Like, you don't really do this. But like you said, it totally was a setup for the next storyline with Hobbs, as after the match, QT is trying to explain to Hobbs what happened. I would have loved to hear the explanation to exactly what he was trying to do, but Hobbs doesn't want to hear it. He just shoves him down. Aaron Solo runs in, tries to keep them apart, but Hobbs takes him out with a spine buster. Then Harley Cameron runs in to shield QT from Hobbs, so Hobbs just walks out and heads to the back. So yeah, it looks like we're beginning some sort of Hobbs versus QTV. He shouldn't have been in this stable to begin with, honestly. Maybe that's why they brought in Johnny TV, so they can have somebody, nothing against Solo and QT, but I think Johnny TV versus Hobbs definitely sounds better on paper than anybody else from QTV does.
Well, I think that Johnny Mr. TV is going to be a better fit within QTV. Now, my issue with this is that this is the third AEW show this week that has featured something from QTV. The original presentation of QTV was just beyond cringe, and even more so because it was done with Hobbs, who did not fit at all. And I think that when they let Harley Cameron take over and let her be more of the mouthpiece of this sort of fun back and forth they have going with the Acclaimed, that okay, this is rehabbing it a bit, but you need to go slowly with this because it's still not there. And adding Johnny helps. Having her do the talking helps. Putting them up against someone like the Acclaimed helps. But this is something that you don't have Dark and Elevation anymore. So I'll say keep it on Rampage. Workshop it a bit there. See what works. Do not go throwing it on every single AEW show. And that's what they've done this week. And I think as much as they've gotten this on the right path, this is the way to ensure that it goes off the rails again. So, and this is something like I'm spending all of this time talking about QTV. This should not have been this much of a focus on this show.
I agree. We move on to a video from Miro, who says that many men have lost themselves after dealing with the devil, but only one man have found themselves after a showdown with his God. He is ready to fight anyone and hurt them in ways they cannot hurt him, but he says nobody can hurt the man that has nobody left to love or covet, and he can't be tempted from his path by a shiny belt, a false god, or a double-jointed hot wife. He must walk the righteous path and be what his God is not. I am Miro, and he senses a big battle is coming. The one we have all been waiting for. What is this big battle that Miro is alluding to, you think?
I don't know. Like, I'm sort of thinking, I want Miro on my screen. I think I said last week that I believe that the match that we should be heading towards in the medium term is him getting the TNT title back. So him versus Luchasaurus. Maybe that's what he's referring to. Not necessarily that we want to see him versus Luchasaurus, although it'll be a great match. It's just not, it's not something that is about the individuals involved. It's about him regaining the TNT title. He nails these every time. I love the Redeemer character, but I think what's incredible is that he can get out that line about having this hot double jointed wife and not crack at all. Like, he's deadly serious. And this is, the line was just hilarious, thrown into an otherwise very dark, brooding promo, and he can just nail this, that he can get away with saying it in a way that no one can. I'm looking forward to whatever they do with him. I'm not sure what this promised feud is, this feud that we've all been looking forward to, but if he's involved, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, when you stated last week about him going after Luchasaurus and the TNT title, I thought the same thing. And with his choice of words, him saying a big battle, I expected an announcement for Battle of the Belts with him getting a title shot. It doesn't mean he still can't get a match. I don't know what else title he would go after. I mean, Orange Cassidy. I can't see Miro and Orange Cassidy fighting at Battle of the Belts, but that's a possibility. Maybe he just shows up. Maybe he has an appearance, and after Luchasaurus retains or Christian retains, whoever's going to be in the match, maybe we do get an appearance from Miro at the end. But I definitely like the idea of him going after the TNT championship. Tony Schiavone is with Willow Nightingale, who unfortunately is not medically cleared due to an injury from Japan. Athena interrupts her and says that Willow has single-handedly ruined her Collision debut and her first victory. Athena starts questioning if her injury is even legit and talks about having 3 flights in coach to get here, and she's still here. And Willow doesn't want another L after losing her New Japan Strong title to Julia, which is funny because later on commentary, Kevin Kelly had to state, it's not Julia Hart, but Julia from Stardom. So you get some confusing fans might be like, wait, when did Willow fight Julia and what title did she lose? It's a little confusing.
Exactly.
Titles. Willow says that the match will still happen, but it will be on Rampage, and she plans on winning the whole tournament and maybe even take a stab at Athena's ROH title, which I'm guess if the match happens, it would have to be at Death Before Dishonor, which is only in a couple weeks, so they definitely need to get that ball rolling as far as matches go. Athena says that Willow isn't even good enough, and she has never beaten her and will never beat her, and she won't even get cleared. But if Willow miraculously does beat her, she'll entertain the challenge for the Ring of Honor Women's Championship. What do you think of this promo and its unfortunate injury to Willow that hopefully should be okay by next Friday or next Wednesday, I guess, when they tape Rampage?
Yeah, I'm hoping that she's okay. It is really, I'm assuming that they wouldn't promise that unless they knew that this was a a slight injury that just needs a few days to heal. This is really unfortunate because I think that this match was a big draw and it felt like a big deal for the women's division or divisions. I was happy that we got reintroduced to Athena because I'm not sure that heel Athena has been given time on AEW TV. She was
Oh, not at
featured
all.
on Dark and Elevation a lot, and then of course on Ring of Honor, where she's been having this incredible run. So I think it was good that we got to see her and see a little bit of the character. So at least it did accomplish something this week. I do kind of think that they are setting up what is a rematch for Death Before Dishonor. Now, Willow was one of the earliest Ring of Honor challengers to Athena's title. They had a fantastic match. Athena won. I was a little surprised that Athena didn't draw her attention to that, because the question is, well, if sure, if you can beat me, you can get another title shot. But in her position, I probably would have mentioned, but I've already beaten you. You had your title shot. So what, you want me to beat you again? Fine. Willow does feel like the person to take this title off Athena eventually. She always has. If so, I guess it makes sense to do that at Death Before Dishonor, particularly if you are looking at moving Athena up to the, I don't want to say main roster. It feels like I have to, but if you're thinking of moving Athena to AEW from ROH, and putting her in the women's title picture, although I'm not sure how that works since she would be a heel and Toni Storm is a heel. We shall see. I'm still looking forward to the match. Very unfortunate that it ended up getting pushed off the show tonight. I think all the more unfortunate because replacing it with Julia Hart versus a local talent called attention to the fact that outside of the tournaments and the outsiders angle, they don't really have any stories going in the women's division. So if someone drops out, you're kind of stuck. You can't just say, all right, well, we'll use this time to work on another, like to develop another story.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the issues with the early episodes of Collision is everything is pretty much centered around the Owen Hart tournament, both the men's and the women's, as well as this FTR Bullet Club Gold. Like those are like the main stories going on now. So I'm curious, once the tournaments are done, are they going to start building to actual stories with other characters? Because it's been so far the CM Punk FTR show and everything's been based around them. So I'm really curious on who else gets a push or a storyline coming out of this. And I do like the idea of Willow getting the Ring of Honor Women's Championship because I feel like you have Diamante there, you have Layla Hirsch just made her return. Definitely more heels for a champion to have to face, and I think Willow is the right one. Only other person I can think of is Sky Blue because she's been on Ring of Honor on a bit of a winning streak, but who knows? Maybe she's going to go into Owen tournament. Maybe we won't see her on Ring of Honor for a while. But I do like both of those ideas as far as like Willow winning the title and having to retain against a lot of these heels. We see a video hyping up Blood and Guts in Boston on July 19th. And says on this Wednesday on Dynamite, they're going to have a closer look, and they keep hyping up the two mystery men. They didn't say if we're going to find out who the mystery men are, but I feel like they might have kind of alluded to it by them taking a closer look at it. We go to the Julia Hart match against the local talent, this being Bambi Hall, which is a second generational athlete. Her sister actually is Liza Hall, who also has wrestled in AEW before in the past. She actually had a dark match against Nyla Rose on this past Dynamite. But the match is very short here, with Julia Hart coming to the ring with 23 wins in a row, and it's her first match back since winning the no-holds-barred match against Anna Jay back in May. Bambi tries to outpower Julia, but Julia knocks her down and starts clubbing away at Bambi. This is the part where Kevin Kelly has a clarifying commentary that Willow lost to Julia from Stardom and not this Julia Hart. Julia Hart takes down Bambi, puts her in a heartless submission, and makes Bambi tap out at 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And commentary kept asking where Malachi Black might be, as we haven't seen him here on Collision, and how Andrade wants his mask back, and that'll lead to the following segment. But before that, I know very quick match here, but at least we got a little bit of a showcase from Julia Hart in her Collision debut.
With that run of wins that she's on, I would say that it is probably a good idea to have her get built up as a challenger for Chris Statlander. I'm not really sure. It kind of seems like they might be moving Hikaru Shida up to do that, or they might be moving Shida towards a world title shot. I might actually do that instead. Toni Storm versus Hikaru Shida and Julia versus Chris Statlander. I guess the issue always with Julia is she's kind of presented as a heel, and the House of Black have been more presented as heels recently, but crowds really like Julia. And when you see her on her own, they still react very well to her. So having her in a match with Chris Statlander, look, AEW does fine with babyface versus babyface matches, but it's going to be an interesting dynamic there to see what the crowd does. But yeah, this match was nothing, and it was just sort of an opportunity to see Julia at work.
Yeah, I think that's the right call, though, to have Julia Hart against Statlander. Statlander had a promo on Rampage pretty much saying she has an open challenge for TBS title and she's willing to fight anybody. I think Julia Hart makes a perfect sense. But speaking of House of Black, we go to a video from Malachi Black, who talks about why he took Andrade's mask. He says the difference between him and Andrade is Andrade didn't become who he was until he took the mask off, as Malachi truly is who he is when he puts it on. Malachi brings up how when Julia reached for his mask, it controlled who Andrade was, and Andrade has been led to believe that his mask is the reason for his strength and success. But when he took it off, it gave him more strength than when he was wearing it. He compares Andrade to a child who can't let go of his teddy bear. So together they will cut the last vein that is pumping blood into the heart of lies that he created for himself. And together they will make sure to know how truly great Andrade is. They cut right back to Lexi Nair, who is with Andrade, and asks exactly what his mask means to him. Andrade says he is a businessman and he doesn't hide behind his mask. He is not a coward like Malachi, and his mask is everything to him. It's about his family, his culture, his country, and for all the Latin people. When he has his mask, he forgets the business. When he takes it off, it's time to fight and it's time to win. Good promo here, but then Kevin Kelly oddly says that he appreciated that Andrade spoke slowly, which is a very odd thing to kind of throw in there. Kind of like didn't really was necessary. I feel like I understand what he's trying to say, but it's like, why would you say that? Like he appreciated that he spoke slowly. That promo from Andrade.
I think he spoke deliberately. Like, yes, he did speak a little bit slowly, but it seemed weird to call attention to that. Malachi Black's promos, they work best when you don't listen exactly to the words he is saying, but you listen to how he is feeling at you. And this is a very good example, I thought, of that, where the words themselves were a little bit circuitous, which his often are, but you were left with this sense that he has this idea that he is helping people by hurting them. And this harkened back to the beginning of his feud with Cody when he first joined the company, where he did this promo about, seeing that the light had died off in Cody's eyes, where he was putting him out of his misery. And I think that this is a very, very good way to present Malachi as this sort of the pain that he inflicts is this terrible kindness. I thought Andrade did very well in the response, sort of building on that sense of passion that we saw last week. Like last week, it almost seemed a little too much for the context. This week, I thought was handled better. We know that Malachi and Andrade have good chemistry, and since it does seem like they are moving towards a singles match rather than a trios match, I'm very curious to see what happens. Partly because I think it's going to be a very good match, partly because I'm a little nervous about seeing either of them lose at this point, because I think that Black, and both as with his group and on his own, is still finding his feet and getting on the ascendant after he had this super hot debut, then cooled off significantly. There were a lot of troubles. He had some injuries and then came back, and they have been very strong since they have come back. The trios belts, they haven't defended them recently, but they've handled the defenses they have had have been good. They are, I guess they're very much going to be one of the stalwarts of Collision. And so I think that it would be good to give them more time to get established as a really powerful faction. So yeah, we'll see where this goes. I don't know who I want to win this, because again, Andrade is just back after a very long layoff from injury. I don't really want to see him lose yet. I think that, and I really don't want to see a match that ends via shenanigans. I want them to have a good match. I want them to have a clean match. I do want there to be a definite winner. I'm just not sure who I want that to be yet.
I mean, with both Andrade and House of Black pretty much both stated they're exclusive to Collision, I can see them having a series of matches. And who knows,
Mhm.
with all this mask talk, maybe some sort of stipulation with a mask down the line. I'm not sure. You can't really have a mask versus mask match unless like the loser can never wear a mask again or whatever the case is. But I'm sure they can
Yeah.
definitely have a series of matches just so it's like both men don't look weak in any defeat that they have. We go to the next match. Oh boy, this match got a lot of time. It definitely benefited from Athena and Willow not being on this card. We have an AEW World Tag Team Championship Eliminator match, FTR versus Jay White and Juice Robinson of Bullet Club Gold. Nigel McGuinness starts, and pretty much throughout the whole majority of this match is complaining about this whole Eliminator stipulation and says that it should just be a title match. And then Kevin Kelly says that it
Mm.
has a feel of a championship match, which Nigel just kind of mocks. So Nigel's definitely playing like the heel in commentary. I didn't really pick up on it the first couple weeks, but today you could definitely feel it.
I felt it when he's been doing the commentary on Ring of Honor too. Like he is very much he's the sort of heelish one compared to Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman.
So the match itself starts with Cash Wheeler and Juice Robinson exchanging words, and then Juice awkwardly lands on Cash with a monkey flip attempt. It definitely could have been a lot worse because it looks like his face almost hit Cash's knees
Mhm.
here. So he definitely lucked out. It didn't land off even more awkwardly. Juice and Jay try to double team Cash, but he ends up escaping to the outside before all men start to have a standoff in the ring, and FTR hits in stereo German suplexes as they go to commercial. When we come back, FTR takes control with Wheeler hitting a dropkick on Juice for E2. They start chopping away, and one chop from Juice hits Cash straight in the mouth. It was definitely like bad timing, and it just looked really good, like to look at, not to
Mhm.
receive, obviously. It was definitely a ouch moment, and commentary definitely brought it up that he hit him square in the lip. Juice hotshots Cash to the outside where Jay White starts attacking him. Jay and Juice spend the next couple of minutes continuing to work on Wheeler, which is pretty much the story of the match here. White even puts the Muda lock on Wheeler, but Dax breaks it up. White goes and takes out Dax on the outside. Cash puts on an inside cradle on White, but Juice has Paul Turner distracted. Cash continues to try to fight off both White and Juice as they go to the second commercial break. When we come back, Dax finally gets the hot tag and goes right after White, hitting him with two German suplexes and a brainbuster after much effort. Cash takes out Juice on the apron with a back body drop as Dax hits White with a superplex, followed by a top rope splash by Cash, but White kicks out right before 3. Dax stumbles and goes right into the right hand from Juice. A Blade Runner is stopped, a big rig is avoided. Back and forth here, a spiked pile driver to White, but Juice breaks up the pin. White and Juice continue on Dax with White hitting a Regal Plex for E2. Insanity keeps going on in this match. White took out Cash with a Blade Runner. Dax tries to pin White, but Juice is the legal man, so Juice hits Dax with a DDT and gets the pin as Cash is just a little too late to break up the pin. And the Bullet Club Gold gets the victory at 28 minutes and 10 seconds. This match was long, and it definitely felt long, but I enjoyed this match. I think the last 5 to 10 minutes was insanity, and I thought it was great.
I thought this was fantastic. I would say that I've I was catching up on some New Japan the last couple of days, so I watched the 2 nights of Independence Day. So I don't mean this to be a backhanded compliment. I think this might be the best match I've seen in the last 24 to 48 hours because like and that would include all of the New Japan matches and there was some great stuff on those shows. I loved this. And the thing is it started off like if I look at my notes the first thing that I was writing there was just FTR, they're known for having these great big matches. The best example would be the trios with the trio of matches with the Briscoes. They don't get as much credit for just the fact that they are capable of delivering really quality shows in a television match. And that you don't expect to be at the level of a pay-per-view, but that are consistently some of the most entertaining and the most gripping stuff on TV. But scrap that because to me, this one was as good as a pay-per-view match. But like as it built up, I thought that there were a couple little obvious like timing mistakes aside. I thought that these four had awesome chemistry, and it was probably good that they were doing this match in Western Canada because I think it solidified the crowd was solidly behind FTR because in on other weeks the crowd's been much more mixed, but where you get FTR with Punk, and I think that they like the Bullet Club Gold. I was very happy that you didn't get some like interference from the Guns or anything. Like they did a little bit of shenanigans. They actually had one ref distraction spot that I thought was really good, which was the one where Juice sort of ran around the side and kind of nailed Dax Harwood to prevent him from making the tag, because you kind of sympathize because the ref sees it, but this is the two non-legal people outside the ring. So do you take action or not? And so I think if you're going to do a ref distraction spot, that's a pretty good way to do one where it would, like, the ref would actually have to question whether they did anything. But yeah, I thought that this one just it started off like the first several minutes were like a very, very solid TV match, but then as it went along, it just got better and better. Jay White is excellent. Like, you saw it a few times. He is one of the best people at like the 2.99 kick out. Like, there was at least once where I almost didn't see that he got his shoulder up, but he did. And as a result, it made it very, very exciting. Going into the match, I did kind of think that we were getting a Bullet Club Gold victory so that you could move on to the title match in Calgary, home of Bret Hart, where certainly that dynamic is going to be even more amplified. People are going to love FTR that much more. They're going to be booing Bullet Club Gold that much more. And I think the purpose is to give FTR the win there, which, you know, we're going to get quite the match next week. And the one thing I would say that I hated about this match, Jay, stop gobbing in your beard. It's grotesque. I hate it. And particularly
that was very
if
nasty.
if you're going, like, you know, oh God, I'm just looking at him. It's like, oh God, it's slobbering time. And I was not, you know, and JR isn't even there to call it a slobber knocker. Like, that's, at least then there would have been some larger point. Oh God, no.
And of course, the camera has
I
to
don't even want to think
zoom in
about it.
right at it as well as
Oh
it's
God,
happening
yes.
too. I agree.
Yeah.
This match was great. Like, it started off pretty, like the first couple minutes was like, okay, it's just them just working on cash. But once like the hot tag after the second commercial break, it was nonstop for the last like 10 minutes. And I agree, it's probably one of the best matches I've seen this week. Big week for tag team wrestling between this and the Creed brothers versus the Diet at NXT. Like, those are two really good tag team, like straight up tag team matches that happen. I was actually in a group chat talking about this match, and it's like, where do you go from here? And I jokingly said, well, it's FTR. It's got to be a 2 out of 3 falls match. And little did we know they were going to announce that. And I wouldn't be surprised if that match actually ends the show next week. I know we have the finals of the Owen Hart tournament for both the men's and the women's, but maybe start with Punk and Starks and end with this match and just carry it over to Battle of the Belts. Like, you have that extra hour. It's a championship match. Why not just carry into that, especially if it's a 2 out of 3 falls match? I always like when, like, it doesn't happen often, but whenever you do have like two shows that just happen to be back to back and it just flows into the next show, it just feels like something unique that doesn't really happen. But yeah, the match is made official for next week after the Bullet Club Gold challenges FTR to a 2 out of 3 falls match for Collision. Before that, we actually had a video package for an actual match that's going to happen at Battle of the Belts, which is Luchasaurus and or maybe Christian Cage defending the TNT Championship against Shawn Spears. So yeah, that match is happening. I'm guessing this is just one of the quick roadblock for Luchasaurus before his actual feud, you would think. But it's good for Shawn Spears to get a match it's going to be in Calgary next week for Battle of the Belts. What else would you do on Battle of the Belts? I mean, we didn't really get too many teases here, but like, what else do you think can, you know, what other championship match would you like to see?
I'm not really, like, I guess, what other championships can you do? I guess you could, you know, Statlander should probably defend on there. I don't know. There's no way in an hour-long show that you're going to get two women's matches. So I don't see Toni Storm defending her title there. Battle of the Belts, it has always, like, it is very much, it's all title matches. The problem that it's run into is that I think that they have had one title change in, now this is going to be the 7th show. They've had one title change and it was on the first show. I think put Orange Cassidy on there. You know, he hasn't had a defense in a couple of weeks, so he's due. I think that would help. I agree that that's a very good idea to have the 2 to 3 falls match start and carry right over into Battle of the Belts. I think maybe, you know, if you really want to, if you want to goose your ratings a bit, start off with Punks versus Stark on Collision, and then see how you can sort of carry things forward. But yeah, I'm trying to think of what other, like, unless they want to, they can shoehorn in a Ring of Honor title defense. God knows the Lucha Brothers are due to defend those tag titles. But Yeah,
I would
we'll see.
throw
I'm not
in.
really sure.
I would throw in, honestly, if you want to get eyeballs on it, and you definitely have to plan these on coming Dynamite. I would do Hook versus Jack Perry for the FTW title. I feel like that story has a lot of momentum to it, and
Mhm.
that might get a little bit more eyeballs on Battle of the Belts, or it just might
Yeah.
get lost with everything else going on. I'm not, but it's like you want that match to be on a big show, and it's like a little too far off, I think, from All In or All Out. Blood and Guts, that could be another show that they might want to stack up with matches, but I feel like the Hook and Perry storyline definitely could use that big boost. We go into the next match. Scorpio Sky making his return versus Action Andretti. Scorpio Sky literally had his last match a year and 2 days ago on the July 6, 2022 episode of Dynamite, where he dropped the TNT title to Wardlow. And Action Andretti gets no entrance, just kind of gets that enhancement talent just in the middle of the ring, which is a little surprising because Andretti definitely had some push, and he's been getting a little bit of a spotlight on Ring of Honor as well, teaming up with Darius Martin and AR Fox. But the match itself starts with Sky being dominant, hitting a jumping stomp to the back of Andretti as they go into picture-in-picture. When we come back, Andretti takes over the match and hits a beautiful springboard elbow, knocking Scorpio to the outside, where he meets him with a dive, followed by a standing Spanish fly inside the ring for a 2. A bit of back and forth with Andretti hitting a shotgun drop kick, but Scorpio gets his knees up as Andretti tries a split-legged moonsault. Sky comes right back with the TKO and gets the pin at 7 minutes and 28 seconds. And after the match, Scorpio, to let people know that he is a babyface, he does help Andretti get up and show him a little bit of respect. What do you think about Scorpio's first match in any promotion since, a little over a year now?
I thought it looked great. I thought that I was a little surprised, like you said, because Andrade has been more of a part of Ring of Honor, and he's been getting some shine there. I like the pairing, like where he is sort of the long lost Martin brothers stepping in to work with Darius and AR Fox. I think that's worked out well for him. They've had kind of a feud go. They had a feud for a little while going with the Kingdom, and they are always exciting to watch. I think that Andretti made a very good dance partner for Sky because they're both very athletic, and it allowed Sky to sort of pull out some of the stuff that you forget he can do. I think it was always a given that he was going to win, but at 7.5 minutes, this one, it did not feel like it outstayed its welcome. Now, of course, everyone probably got a little bit of extra time because of the Athena versus Willow match getting canceled, but I found that this one moved along really well. They're both guys who you send out there, and they're just going to be very entertaining to a crowd. And to go on after that tag match and have to be like the next thing that the crowd gets, and to have the crowd get quite engaged at times, I thought was a very good statement as to, well, what both of them could do, but also that, it's a great reintroduction for Sky. We're clear now. I love the sort of the conciseness of just having him shake Andretti's hand. Now he's a babyface. So we'll see what happens with him. But I am looking forward to it. I thought it was a very good reminder of how capable he is.
And someone who took advantage of having extra time was Nigel McGuinness, playing the role of Excalibur here, because he was not going to do the fast read. He took his sweet time reading the cards for the upcoming shows, including Dynamite, which has the 2 blind eliminator tag team matches of Orange Cassidy and Darby Allin versus Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia, who advanced on Rampage, as well as MJF and Adam Cole versus Brian Cage and Big Bill, who also advanced on Rampage. And I'm not sure if you saw, but MJF put a pretty funny tweet saying, sorry guys, I'm feeling a little bit ill. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to make it on Dynamite. And Adam Cole responded with, come on, stop bullshitting. Like, you're going to be there.
Yeah.
So you have those 2 blind eliminated matches. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say MJF responded to that. It's like, oh, I guess it's only cool if you do it. They have had MJF and Adam Cole they have established this fantastic sort of multi-platform repartee that they are doing, where it's been across Twitch, it's on Twitter, and these are 2 people who have absolutely mastered using resources outside of television to build their story, and I am all here for it. I like it. And so this bit with MJF, because at first you see it and it's like, oh no, he's sick, and then like, oh no, of course not, he's being MJF.
Yeah. I want to say I'm taking like to the next level and actually have MJF like on Twitch playing video games with Cole and
Mhm.
actually being really, really terrible at it and just complaining like, hey, I don't play video games. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
so we have those two matches, as well as the semifinal in the Owen Hart tournament between Ruby Soho and Sky Blue. Swerve Strickland versus Nick Wayne, the newly turned 18 years old who can finally wrestle on television, making his debut for AEW, as well as Commander versus Chris Jericho, which I'm really intrigued to see. They also hype up Blood and Guts in 2 weeks for Dynamite. On next week's Rampage, we have the postponed match between Athena and Willow Nightingale in the semifinals for the Owen Hart tournament. And on Collision next week, we have the finals of both of those matches with the winners of Soho and Blue versus the winner of Athena and Willow, as well as Ricky Starks versus the winner of Punk and Joe, which we're going to get next, and a 2 out of 3 falls for the AEW Tag Team Championship as FTR defends against Jay White and Juice Robinson of Bullet Club Gold. But before all that, we go to the Owen Hart Foundation men's semifinal match here, the long-awaited match number. They say match number 4, but like I was looking and they have definitely more than 4 matches. They only count like the 3 matches that they had in Ring of Honor in 2004, but they did have one prior to that. But if we're going by their story, this is the 4th match between Joe and Punk. And if you want some more information on this, if you don't want to watch the matches, John Pollock put up a great article on postwrestling.com talking about the entire history between Joe and Punk. But the match starts, big fight feel here. Joe with the blue and black trunks, Punk with the pink and black trunks. And right away, Punk is able to duck a big spinning kick by Joe. And then they're giving an update on Roderick Strong from his attack last week from Joe. And Nigel just drops in this subtle little line here about Bryan Danielson saying that he would have broke his neck if they got into the ring together, but Bryan went ahead and broke his arm. So definitely painting like Nigel being the heel if this match ever does happen with Bryan Danielson, which I hope it does happen. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen at All In, which would have been the perfect place for it. But if it does happen, I'm down for it. They trade off chops and strikes until Joe does his casual walk away as Punk goes crashing down off the ropes. I laugh every time Joe does this so seamlessly. Joe keeps Punk in the corner with a flurry of punches. Punk gets on the ropes and gets the life chopped out of him as he stumbles to the outside as we get our first commercial break. When we come back, Paul Turner has the gloves on, and as soon as I see the gloves, I'm like, okay, who's bleeding? Where they're bleeding from? And it looks like Punk is bleeding from his mouth. They go into chops with one getting Joe really loopy. Punk takes advantage of this and knees Joe in the corner as the crowd starts chanting for Punk. But Joe puts on a coquina clutch right away, but Punk is able to break it up with a back body drop. Punk continues to work on Joe, knocking him down and going to the top rope where he hits a flying elbow drop for a 2 count. Punk goes for the GTS, but they come crashing down as Joe puts on a crossface right away until Punk is able to put his foot on the bottom rope to break it up. Joe goes for a powerbomb, but Punk escapes and tries to the GTS again, just for Joe to hit him with a power slam for a 2 count. The crowd breaks into an Owen Hart chant as Punk knocks Joe down with a kick for a 2. Punk goes to the top rope again, but Joe stops him, tries the muscle buster, but Punk stops him and hits him with a neck breaker. He tries the GTS once again, but Joe escapes out, and then Punk is able to roll him up, sitting on top of him for the pin at 15 minutes and 33 seconds, and he finally beats Samoa Joe, and he will go on to advance to the finals next week to face Ricky Starks. What did you think of Joe Punk 4?
First of all, I just have to mention this because every time they showed this person, it made me giggle. But someone was there with a sign that said Samoa Joe is my tribal chief. Like, excellent work. Absolutely excellent. 5 stars. Like, just great. Made me laugh every single time the person was on camera, and they were on a few times during this match, which is even funnier because I'm pretty sure that Samoa Joe is the only Samoan who isn't related to Roman Reigns.
Pretty much, yeah.
So I guess he's the chief of his own tribe. But okay, the match itself, I thought it was very good. And I thought that it was structured in such a way that it allowed both men to show their strengths. And these are 2 guys who they're both in their 40s. They both have a lot of wear and tear on the body. So they are not at the peak that they were the last time that they faced off. But I thought that this was a very well organized match that allowed them to sort of hit their big spots. And you got some tension. I mean, I don't see them beating Punk anytime soon, and we'll sort of get to the implications of that. But I thought that it was a very solid match. I enjoyed it. I would have enjoyed it even more if it hadn't happened on the same show as that tag match, because I still felt like I was coming down from the tag match at this point. And this wasn't as good at that as that. It wasn't particularly close, but I at least thought, keeping it to 15 minutes is a good length. Punk gets his win. It felt, they had hyped this up now for a week that, he'd never beaten Samoa Joe. I think just because of the circumstances, that maybe felt a little hollow because, as I said, I don't see them beating Punk anytime soon, and I felt like what this was definitely going to be the match where he did beat him. So maybe didn't feel as massive as it would have if there was more tension around the pairing. But I thought they both looked great, and I thought that they did not hold back. And as I said, the match was organized in such a way that it allowed them to look their absolute best.
Yeah, I enjoyed the match, but I feel the same way. If it was on a different show than that tag match, it definitely would have stood out more. But like after this show, most people are going to be talking about the FTR Bullet Club Gold match. I purposely didn't go back and watch the original matches they had in Ring of Honor because I didn't want like to compare anyway. But now I'm going to go back and watch pretty much all the matches.
Yeah.
So if there was any like callbacks or like references to that, let us know. We're going to start taking callers soon. So if anyone wants to call in and let us know if there's any like Easter eggs to the previous matches, I would love to know that. But after the match, Joe and Punk have a bit of a face-off as we all kind of wonder, what's going to happen here. The crowd starts chanting for CM Punk, but those chants quickly turn into Owen Hart chants, which is a nice touch here. And then Joe puts his hand out, and Punk shakes it just for Joe to put on the coquina clutch and starts screaming that he's always been better than Punk. He goes to grab a chair, but before he can do any more damage, FTR runs out to protect Punk as Joe leaves. And then Ricky Starks, who's been aligned with FTR and CM Punk in the last couple of weeks, slowly makes his way down to the ramp, kind of stops, stares down Punk, giving him a weird little look here, not sure what to do, and it just kind of turns around and leaves as Punk looks at his opponent for next week. So yeah, definitely intriguing how they're going to play off this match next week, but it looks like Ricky Starks is going to be the heel going into this match with babyface white meat here, CM Punk, next week in Calgary. So how do you think this match is going to result? Do you think that Punk is going to win? Do you think Starks is going to win? What would you do in the finals of the Owen tournament?
When Punk came back, he did that whole bit with the bag, and that, as far as he was concerned, someone had to step up and take that from him. That makes no sense unless you're going to go a long while before you beat him, because it has to feel like a huge deal when, he sort of feels forced to give up his belt or his bag or whatever it is. But as a result, I think that Punk is winning this. And even I get, because it does further that story, I guess the question is, if you were going to give the win to Starks, does it forward anything? And I don't really think it does. That saddens me a bit, because I feel like this tournament is tailor-made to sort of advance the cause of someone who needs to go to the next level within the company. But they've kind of, if Ricky Starks were to win, okay, he hasn't, there's been no new feud that's really developed with him during the course of the tournament. There's no obvious path to him. He's already had his title shot against MJF. I don't know, putting him in the TNT mix almost feels like it's a lateral move at best. And so I find myself, as much as I think they've handled the tournament very well, I find myself weirdly ambivalent about who wins this one. I think that the more interesting final is actually going to be the women, because there I can see it going to Ruby, I can see it going to Athena, I can see it going to Willow, probably not to Sky Blue, but it's not totally out of the question, because they certainly have built her up a bit lately, and there are stories to tell coming out of that that could be done with any of the women involved. Whereas with this one, again, because of that initial Punk promo, you've kind of put yourself on a specific path and we shall see how that works out for them. I did very much like the Joe turn. Well, not really turn, because he's presented very much as a heel, but that the Joe bit at the end, maybe possibly setting up like Joe versus Punk 5 at some point, because it didn't. Punk's win was kind of fluky, and Joe's reaction made it feel like there was still something between them. So I like that they're keeping that in their back pocket. But yeah, Joe with just he did the flip to the coquina clutch so quickly that I thought it was very effective, because it was like you almost didn't think it was going to come. And then it was this lovely moment with the crowd chanting for Owen, and the two sort of, seasoned warriors shaking each other's hand. And then Joe was like, no, screw this.
At this point, we're going to go to your feedback and your calls. If you have anything to say about Collision, it could be about Rampage, it could be about Ring of Honor, it could be about GCW, MLW, whatever you saw this week or this weekend, let us know. We are going to go to our first call here with Hansi. Hansi, welcome to Collision Course. What's going on?
What's going on, man? How are you guys? You guys are doing a good job, by the way. But I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
I'll say though, I noticed that this show more often than not, I feel like because I also kind of recap it for my own thing, right? And I feel like it's much easier to recap because I feel like a lot of the matches are like they're more slow. You would think maybe Jim Cornette was shadow booking it because it matches his style of like Southern wrestling kind of in a way where like it's more about the actual in-ring story and there's not really much going on. So like when you're jotting down like notes, you're not really jotting like on Dynamite, you're like 80 million moves where like it's like PWG and ROH combined into one with like a very fast pace. So I actually, as like someone that's recapping it, I think this show is actually easier to do that. I like the style of matches. The FDR and the Juice and Switchblade was probably the match of the night. Obviously, I thought that was great. You guys made good points about how like Starks doesn't feel like the next kind of big. Like it feels like he's just fulfilling a role. Like I feel like the show's uplifted a little bit being involved with Punk and FDR. But like some of his matches, it feels like he's like not being billed as like this next big star. So I do think that Punk is winning next week, even though I like the Punk and Joe match. It was a little bit under. I thought the ending was underwhelming. I just thought like the way it went down was a little bit underwhelming. But overall, it told a good story in the match. Like, I went in realizing that these guys are not like at the level 20 years ago. So like I appreciate them working more character work, and you know what I mean, that's what I like about the show. The only criticism I have is that if you're not gonna have Willow versus Athena, I still would have had like I still would have had that promo. Like, you know, you have Julia Hart still like, you know, like doing a job match. I thought that was okay. That was pretty decent. I never seen somebody actually successfully use a body trip before, which was kind of cool. But what's it called? I would have liked if Athena just had a match also with the like. I just think AEW should be having if you're going to throw out random matches sometimes. I think I know people are more about the ratings will go down, but I think you should be able to do more than one women's match a show. And I don't think that's too much to ask for, or a woman's angle, because it feels like the woman angles are so far in between and all that. And before I go, I'll just ask you guys this: do you guys feel like first of all, yeah, I'm with you guys last week. The colliders thing is kind of stupid. But with the do you guys feel like a lot of this like is like a forced rivalry, like a SmackDown Raw in 2002, 2003? Because it kind of does feel like that, and I just want to enjoy the strength of both shows. You know what I mean? I don't want to go, I don't like Dynamite because they're focusing on friendship and relationships. So it's like I like Moxley and Kingston's dynamic right now. So I'll leave you guys with that. But again, guys, good show, and I enjoy that you guys are contributors to the show, to the network, man. So peace out.
Thank you so much, Hansi. Yeah,
I think that in terms of the rivalry between shows, I think that unfortunately, that element is there whether the producers want to lean into it or not, and it's because of all of the bullshit. That's the drama. I don't think that that's helpful. I think that it invites dissension, and that is already something that I think is going to be a problem for the company going forward, which is that in this sort of narrative of competing sides, the way this is structured is actually encouraging people to get dug in on their side more, and that helps no one, because wrestling is an art where you need to get people behind a baby face and against a heel, and that is how you create your great narratives. You don't get there by inviting your audience to be split, and I think that is happening because of the people involved. I think that the show splits just kind of emphasize that. And unfortunately, I do think that there is a certain extent to which that's going to happen. Now, the thing that kind of protects them from that is that given the time slot that they're in, there is no expectation that Collision is going to deliver in terms of audiences. Now, you can say that that's not the important thing, and you would be right. It's not the important thing. What matters is the quality of the show. I think right now they're delivering two pretty strong shows a week, and that Collision is sort of finding a personality that keeps it distinct. But I worry that this idiotic sort of factionalization that is already a problem for AEW is going to get worse, and it is going to be exacerbated by the fact that you have to keep certain people on certain shows for reasons other than that's just when they want to be there.
Yeah, a lot of great points from Hansi, especially with the whole pacing between Dynamite and Collision. As somebody who does reports for Dynamite, yes, I can agree. There's so much happening on Dynamite, but even like tonight's show, which had a like almost 30-minute match, it didn't feel like long match. Like even by taking notes, it wasn't like so much was happening. It was like maybe like a minute or two with just like nonstop action, but it felt really paced, and that could possibly be somebody else producing the show or helping out with the show. That's not the same person that's doing Dynamite. That makes it feel different. And I agree with the women's match. Like we just had it a couple weeks ago where Britt Baker couldn't have her match with Ruby Soho. So Ruby still had a match. Why couldn't you just give Athena, even if it's another 2-3 minute match, at least have more than one women's match on the show? Like you could have definitely cut out something like the Scorpio Sky needed to have his match this week. I feel like it was a last minute announcement. They could have just held that off for another week. Like I think it would have been okay, and just have Athena fight another enhancement talent from Regina. You know, like give two matches.
I have
like,
some, yeah. I have some thoughts on this. And yeah, I think people who've tuned in to any of the shows that I've been on know that this is obviously an issue for me. Now, the thing that I thought they handled very well in the match that you had where Britt Baker couldn't show up is that you had Ruby do this squash match. But then after the match, she cut a phenomenal promo. And so it felt like the match had a purpose. In this case, you didn't have, like, yes, it would have been a much better idea to have Athena come out and do Athena things and let people see again this character that she's become, because it is really interesting. It's like her presentation has been really strong, and that would have at least accomplished something. The problem that you run into is that the women's division in AEW runs almost entirely on feuds and not on stories. And the what I mean there is that feuds are about, you have something that I want. Like you have, namely, a title. So you'll get someone to say, like, I want your title. You can't have my title. We build up for a little bit. We fight. It's over. Stories are like what they have going on with the Outsiders is more of a story. What they did with Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa leading up to their no holds bar match is more of a story. And even that continued after, when they built up to their championship matches. So I think that it is an ongoing problem. And truthfully, if you're talking about what's on national television, representation for women is not good, and it peaked for a while back, I guess, like 2016, 2018, and has fallen off significantly. But when you talk about women not being a draw, women are as much of a draw as you want to make them. And if you invest in building stronger characters and stronger stories, viewers will come. You know that because it worked for WWE, who were significantly further behind where AEW is now when they decided to create this new women's division. And the key there is how much you want to invest in terms of building people up and in terms of creating stories. You cannot do that with the amount of time you are investing per show in your women's division. You just can't. If you're going to do one match per show, and a significant portion of them are going to be these quick matches that don't build any sort of narratives, then yes, people are going to tune out because it's just not one of the more engaging stories, and they don't have a good history with that. If you compare AEW and WWE, the amount of time that they dedicate to women's wrestling actually isn't that different, but I would say that WWE has done a better job in terms of making it feel like there is at least you can say that you like or dislike the stories, but they have done a better job of at least making sure that there are certain stories that keep getting represented. I think that it is an ongoing problem area, and yes, AEW has made significant improvements, but they still feel like they're way behind where they should be for a promotion that wants to show that it can do things differently. And yeah, it's like if they want to show that they can be something new and different and can engage a new sort of audience, then they need to not be wallowing in the same territory as WWE when it comes to how much time they're dedicating to the women, and they have to be doing significantly better with their stories.
Absolutely. A lot of great points there. It makes me think, like, with the way they presented Julia Hart tonight, if we still had the Athena match, would we still have gotten this Julia Hart promo? I mean, this match, I don't really know.
Yeah.
But
no, you wouldn't.
Probably not,
because, right? Yeah, no, they do one match per show. And if you look at something like, if you look at Rampage, that actually means that the like what they dedicate per show is pretty high compared to other shows like either Dynamite, Raw, or SmackDown. If you look at what, but if it's one match per show in Dynamite, it has the least time dedicated to women's wrestling as you can. There's I really recommend, there was an article a couple months ago that Bell to Bells published that looked at not just AEW and WWE, but also like Impact, and they included NXT in their analysis, and it's very interesting to see who is doing what with their women's division.
I would think it had to be Impact has to be like top of the line as far as like giving the women's time, because I feel like 2 to 3 matches on Impact are usually women's matches, and they go to distance. Like it's pretty split between the men's and women's matches alignment on those shows for sure. We're going to go to our next call here with Muggin. So Muggin, welcome to Collision Course. What's going on?
What's up, guys? How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I gotta say, so now that we're like 4 episodes deep on Collision, like any good spinoff, it takes like a few weeks to find its identity. For example, a good example, Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Better Call Saul knew what it was right from the beginning, and of course, Breaking Bad took its time to getting there. Collision is the antithesis to Dynamite's mile-a-minute pacing. There's 4 matches tonight, and each of them got time to breathe. All of them got time to breathe, and quite frankly, I'm enjoying Collision more nowadays as opposed to Dynamite, because it's like it's like if you look away, so you might miss something on Dynamite. Whereas Collision is like it will slow things down for you to catch it, for you to absorb everything. Now, it took it was let's talk about Joe versus Punk. Across 4 matches, there was nearly 2 hours and 45 minutes of ring time across all 4 matches, and I've seen the whole trilogy this weekend, and I'm not gonna go so far as to say the 4th one matches those ones, but it was good for what it was. And the aftermath with Joe suckering Punkin, and Ricky Starks coming out afterwards does set the stage for a turn, I think, because Hobbs and I feel like Hobbs and Starks might be going in different directions coming out. It might be going in different directions coming out of it, because do y'all think it would be a step backwards if Starks turns heel and joins QTV? Because I think it would be.
Oh God,
I hope not. No.
Yeah, no. Keep QTV as something funny and entertaining. It's fine on that level. Like I kind of liked what they've been doing with them and the Acclaimed, but just limit how much you're using it. And I think putting Starks with them would just be a disaster. I don't think it's a step backwards to turn Starks heel, because he's a good heel. And maybe having, like you said, I think that you bring up a very good point, which is that Starks and Hobbs may in fact be ships crossing in the night, that they're going in opposite directions, and I don't think that that's a bad idea.
Even though a small part of me wants to see a little reunion between them, because I feel like we need more tag teams. And speaking of tag teams, Switchblade and Juice and FCR. Man, they got a lot of time on this one. I gotta say, does Dynamite give that much time to tag team wrestling nowadays? Because I don't think so. And
I can't remember the last time a tag team match on any show got like almost 30 minutes. Like that's definitely like a big statement right there for the tag team division.
Of course, and the 2 out of 3 falls match should be something. And what else? What else am I missing?
So, quick question, Muggin. You said you went back and watched the trilogy. Was there any like callbacks or anything that they might have like alluded to from the previous matches?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, Siino, because I tried looking for like Easter eggs. Because I tried looking for Easter eggs because I was kind of hoping like Punk would hit like a Pepsi twist and Joe would duck. I was kind of looking for that, and a lot of the match was structured like their previous 3 matches. It was very much in the vein of our ROH main event, but it condensed into 15 minutes. And of course, I always pop for whenever Joe does like the walkaway spot whenever does something fight. It's just the nonchalance. It's his nonchalance that just makes it so funny. So overall,
I'm not sure if that's in the video game, but if it's not, they need to add that. That's fine.
Oh God,
do that over and over again.
That's definitely a patch idea. Yeah. Yeah, I'm running out of things to say. Damn.
Well, that's okay.
That's okay. You said some good things.
Yeah.
I saw someone I need to find it, but someone did a YouTube video where they kind of did a supercut of all Joe walking away for like 10 minutes. And it doesn't get tired even watching it like one after the other because it's just his expression is always just perfect. So at this point, you want to see it in a Joe match.
It's great meme fodder. And would it be a stretch to say that they might do like a 5th and final match and Death Before Dishonor in a couple weeks?
Oof. I don't know if they do it there. I don't know if they're going to bring Punk on to Ring of Honor. Maybe. The thing is, if it goes on Ring of Honor, it has to be for the title, and then it's weird because are you going to have Joe beat Punk again? Anyway, I think that Joe versus Punk 5, they've set the table for that.
Yeah, it's funny talk about Death Before Dishonor. I had originally seen the match announcement between Claudio and Mark Briscoe. Cole just saw the match announcement. I was like, that's kind of weird. Why would they do the match when the whole story's been about Mark trying to go after the TV title? And then I go and watch Ring of Honor. They actually had an explanation. They showed Eddie Kingston in Japan right after winning the strong title, talking about how he would love to have his rematch against Claudio, but he's going to be in the G1. So he literally challenged Mark Briscoe to challenge for the title. And then you had a promo from Mark saying, hey, I always wanted the TV title. That's true. But why not follow my brother's footsteps and go after the world title? And you had a nice little exchange between him and Claudio saying, you'll never beat your brother. You'll never be my level. So I thought it was really well done. If nobody has seen that, at least go back and watch the promo between the Kingston interview and the Mark and Claudio.
Claudio in particular was just fantastic there. Yeah.
And personally, if I could indulge a little bit, I was kind of hoping Tony Khan would pay a little extra for Joe to walk out to Jadakiss' champ is here.
Hey, you never know, right? Maybe down the line. But yeah, we do need an opponent for Joe for Death Before Dishonor. So there's plenty of challengers out there. Who can you have? Punk. I would love to see Punk have an official Ring of Honor match now that it's owned by Tony Khan, but I can't see it happening as soon as Death Before Dishonor. But hey, you never know. Crazier things have happened in wrestling, right?
Yep. All right, guys.
All right. Thanks, Muggin. Thank you for calling in, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon again.
Yeah. Bye.
Later. We do have one piece of feedback here from Benjamin, who says that I think one of the positives about Collision is the ability to span content across both it and Dynamite more equally, which is dramatically improving the pace and storytelling of both shows. That said, I have yet to watch tonight's episode. Also, thank you both for your wonderful work on this show so far. You're a positive pair of voices to hear. Thank you so much, Benjamin.
Thank you. That is lovely to hear. And finding our way around here.
Yeah, I know it's a tough spot, and a lot of people aren't home on Saturday nights to watch it. But I feel like by tomorrow morning, by tomorrow afternoon, a lot of people will at least talk about the tag team match. They might tune in for Joe and Punk, but they'll stay around for FTR and Bullet Club Gold for real. But we'll be sticking around here next week and every other week until Collision goes on forever. I don't know. We'll see how long Collision goes, but I'm hoping.
Well, let's see how those ratings are.
Yeah, I know, right? Especially week 4. I'm really curious because last week was a really, really, really low rating. But like you said, you had Money in the Bank, you had the taped aspect of it. It was July 4th weekend. There were so many things going against it. So I'm really curious on how they're going to do this week and the following week as well with the Owen Hart finals, and then whatever they're going to storylines are going to be going into after that. But yeah, busy weekend. If you have a chance, I'm going to be doing, right after this show is done, I'm going to be writing up a report for MLW's Never Say Never pay-per-view that they're having, their first ever live pay-per-view on Fight. GCW, is there anything on GCW that you're looking forward to? I know Richard Holiday was challenging for the title. I'm a big fan of Richard Holiday. I know you
yeah,
his
me too.
as well.
Me too. And I'm so glad that he's back, that he's healthy. It was interesting because he's fighting Blake Christian, and the dynamic there seems so weird because right now Christian is the heel and Holiday is the babyface, and that is so the opposite of where the two of them were like a year ago. But I haven't gotten a chance to watch it. I'm going to watch it after this. But I saw a little bit of feedback online that said it was an excellent match. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. Holiday's one of these people who I would kind of like to see get some action in Ring of Honor. Blake Christian already has. Blake Christian was one of those people where it was rumored that he had been signed by AEW. But doesn't, there's always a few people floating around who we think might be signed by AEW, but they haven't got the graphics, so we're not super sure. Yeah, I'm still recovering from watching independent, like I said, watching the Independence Day specials for New Japan. So yeah, if you're going to check out something extra this week, highly recommend those. I thought night one, the junior tag match was just mind blowing. I thought it was so good. Like the death match, the tag team match was great for other reasons, and just those were both. I think the emotional high point of both shows was definitely Eddie Kingston. But I would particularly recommend in terms of matches the tag match with Mox and Homicide, Desperado, and Jun Kasai from the night before, if only to see the audience reaction to Jun Kasai when he came out, his first time ever in New Japan. And yeah, the junior tag match with TJP and Francisco Akira versus the two of the new Bullet Club goons, Dan Maloney and Gabriel Kidd.
And if people want to hear more of your recommendations and more of your takes on wrestling, where can they find you?
And they can find me on Twitter. I am She Rants About Wrestling, which is at She Rants MTL. Maybe by this time next week, I'll have a Threads address for you, but I haven't said
I was just going to ask you if you got on Threads. Yeah, I signed up, and it's a lot easier, especially if you have an Instagram. It's literally like syncing your Instagram and taking all your followers. So it's definitely, it's a little like odd to get used to, but I think it's definitely a good platform to have. A little bit of work in progress, but I think it's definitely going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think I did set up my Instagram account. It's not linked to wrestling at all. It's just like my personal account, and I did set up a Threads account through that. And yeah, they did a very good job of making sure that the learning curve is very short if you're coming in from Twitter. Like, it works the interface is very similar, even like the icons that they use to show you what you can do in terms of forwarding or reposting, anything like that. It's going to feel very comfortable if you're used to working on Twitter. We'll see. I mean, the one bit where I'm sort of trying to see what I can do is whether or not it's possible to have multiple accounts, because that is a very good thing that Twitter had going, where you can manage multiple accounts through a single dashboard, and that I'm not so sure about. So
you would think so, because on Instagram itself, you're able to do multiple accounts. So I don't see why they wouldn't allow you to do that on Thread. So hopefully that's something that they will add if they haven't already. But if you want to follow me on Thread, as well as Twitter and Instagram, the same handle on all platforms, that's Siino Evil, CNOEVIL. And Kate, you can follow her as well. And follow all of Post Wrestling's work from Andrew Thompson, Neil Flanagan, up on postwrestling.com. We have a great article up there by John Pollock talking about the history of Samoa Joe and CM Punk. And I'm sure there'll be plenty more work every day, all day on postwrestling.com. But you can find us here next week for another episode of Collision Course. Thank you for listening and have a great night.